Women's Employee Resource Group, you guys are doing it. You are doing it. I am so grateful to be able to share this time and space with you today. I had an opportunity to look at the PowerPoint presentation that you're going to view today, and it is outstanding. I mean, it's really great. I'm even going to steal a little bit from it and talk about some of the women, but I was so struck by the diversity of the women and the diversity of their accomplishments. And I found myself, as I read through, looking for what that common thread was between all of them, outside of being women. And certainly it's excellence, but to me, at the foundation, it was intention. It was really intention. And in all its varied forms, neutral intention, self-serving intention, which is not necessarily a bad thing, and pure intention. And I talk about intention a lot when I'm speaking with people, because I feel like it's so important that we connect with that. And so one of the questions I get a lot is, what is the difference between achieving and intention? And can you achieve without intention? Well, certainly you can. I mean, even a blind squirrel gets a nut every now and then. But when you achieve with intention, it provides a certain both spirituality and scientific nature to it that helps you to create a pattern that you can replicate time and time again. And that's what I love about it. And even in pure intention, even more so, it helps you to take that intention to a whole other level and dare I say, have global impact. And it's so very powerful. And so when I think about neutral intention in some of the women you're going to hear about, I think about Malala from Pakistan. She just wanted to be educated, about as neutral and basic as we can imagine. I think about Madonna, and in a, quote, self-serving intention, but not really self-serving. She just really wanted to be good at something. It was about her belief in herself. And I think about Harriet Tubman, who her pure intention was to lead slaves to freedom. It can't get any more pure than that. That is true altruism. And so I want to share some instances in my life as examples and illustrations of times when I've got it right and times when I've really mucked it up, and the varying types of intention that apply to those situations. I wasn't born knowing what I wanted to do, but I knew that I loved to talk and I knew I loved to sing. My mother didn't call me nosy, but she called me newsy. She was like, if anything that I said, you had 50 questions around it. And I really, really did. What about this? How about that? Can we do it like this? She's like, girl, please just give me a break. But she answered all of my questions, well, actually encouraged me to ask more questions. And the singing aspect of it, even Philip can tell you, there's probably not a day that goes by that I'm not singing or humming or doing something along that line, because it just really speaks to my spirit. And so when I was 9 years old, watching the Saturday morning cartoons, and these two shows came on in our area, Just Kidding and Kids Watch. I lived in San Francisco. They were NBC shows. And I saw these two shows on Kids Watch. It was kid reporters going out talking to other kids in the community. I was like, oh, that's me. On Just Kidding, it was kids singing about social justice. And I really felt that resonated with me as well. And I remember that Saturday morning sitting in front of the television, and I looked into the television as if I were speaking to God himself and the universe and myself. And I said, I'm going to be on these two shows. I had no evidence to tell me that I was going to be on those two shows, but I believed it as well as I knew my name. And so that Monday, I called the station, finally got to children's programming, and I spoke to a woman named Chris Metcalf. And she said, well, we actually just had auditions. We appreciate your interest. We won't be having auditions again for another 6 months. We'll take your name and call you. 6 months for a 9-year-old is like an eternity. And so I gave my name and didn't really feel hopeful that I was going to get a call. Well, in about 5 months, I got a letter saying that this audition was going to happen, date, time, place. I ran to my mom's room and I was like, it's here. And she's like, what? And I showed it to her. And so she was excited, but when she looked at the date, she realized she had a business trip to take during that week. And so she said, well, your Aunt Jean's going to be here taking care of you guys, but she works during the day. Oh, we'll figure it out. Well, in all the hubbub, it never got figured out. So 2 days before, I have two older brothers. One's 4 years older than me, one's 3 years older than me. I went to my brother Kenny, who is my road dog. Now, if I was 9 at the time, he was 12. And I said, you've got to get me there. And he was like, the only way I can get you there is on the bus. And if we do that, we're going to have to cut school. And I'm like, but please. He's like, I can't, please. So finally, he gave in to me. An hour and a half from our house into San Francisco, 2 kids. We got up to the audition. The woman checked me in and gave me a packet of papers. And she said, well, you can start filling them out. But when your mom comes in, she's going to have to sign them. And I said, okay, she's parking the car. Lying through my teeth. Well, I went inside when I was called, sang, danced, acted, did my thing. When I came back out, I dropped the clipboard off and I scurried out of there as quickly as I could because I didn't want her to ask me any questions. A week later, Chris Metcalf called my house and she said, Leslie, you got the job. And I was like, yes. She said, but your mother didn't sign the forms. And because of child labor laws, we need for her to sign the forms and, be part of the organization. Oh my God. I was like, okay, can you send them? So she sent the forms. I didn't say anything until they got here. Took the forms up to my mom. And I said, Mom, I got the job. And she said, what job? I said, the job on the television shows. She was like, I think that's a good thing, but how did that happen? How did they know about you? And I said, well, Kenny and I cut school, and he took me into the city. My mom was 2 peas.
Of course.
She was pissed, and she was proud. So, she was just like, the danger of everything that could have happened was mind-blowing. But she said, look, you guys both have a month's punishment, and she did tap the bottom a little bit, but she allowed me to take the job. And what that did was begin to reveal to me the power of declared intention. And so a year later, I actually started running when I was 6, but I got my first national record on a relay team when I was 10 years old, a year after this occurrence. And we got this record, and I got home that night, and everything was so joyous, but I knew there was more. So I stood in front of the mirror, and I did the same thing I did in front of the television. I said, I am going to be an Olympian. I spoke to God, I spoke to the universe, I spoke to my spirit. Now, years later, many hurdles, pitfalls, and brick walls, I finally got there in 1988. Now, I realized the specificity of your declared intention is also very important because what I should have said at 10 years old was, you are going to be a gold medalist at the Olympic Games. But I didn't know. But I did make the team. So those 2 events, I think happening so close together, cemented in my soul the power of declared intention. And everything that Nina talked about in the introduction, those things really have happened for me. And I believe that they are part and parcel, part of the declared intention and the way that I've lived my life and believed in this thing. And in 2012, I will share with you a story of self-serving intention. So in 2012, I'm sitting in front of the television watching the games from home, and I'm like, dang it, I have covered everything under the sun. 2 World Series, 2 Super Bowls, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Tour de France, you name it, except for one thing. What's that one thing? The Olympics. And so I made a very specific declared intention. I said, I'm going to be part of the NBC broadcast team working in track and field on air in Rio at the 2016 games. And all of the evidence that I needed to know that this could happen was evident. I had a friend who was the CEO of USA Track and Field. I had a friend who became the EVP of Talent and Acquisition for NBC during that time. And then certainly I had my experience. So I was like, this is as close to a slam dunk as Michael Jordan can get without slam dunking, okay? I was gonna do the work, I did the work. It didn't happen. My friend who was CEO of USA Track and Field, even though he held that powerful position, they do not have a say in the broadcast team. And my friend who was EVP of Talent and Acquisition for NBC, although he cast every NBC news program and sports program, the Olympic group is an insular group that works independent of any other group at NBC. And the guy who hired for talent just never was feeling me. But when I thought about it, because I did do some grieving, ask my husband, when I thought about it, my intention was self-serving. It was about my ego and my hubris and what I thought I could do. And I could do it, but if I had come at it from a way of, I wanted to be that person on the field who was talking to the athletes, really setting them up for successful answers so that they could shine, so that the world could see them and engage with what they did and engage with who they are and just fall in love with them. If I had come at it from that perspective, I think I would have had a different outcome. But because of the way this happened, it allowed me to pull back, take some quiet time, and readjust my focus. And so I took that desire to promote athletes in a positive way, and I reached out to a friend at Facebook, and I said, after the games are over, I want to bring some Olympians out, and I want to do a Facebook Live broadcast, both at your campus and around the world, where we will talk about Olympism and the things that make all of us Olympians. And that is about intention, it's about excellence, it's about doing the best you can with what God gave you. And so we were able to do that. We brought out 3 Olympians and we talked to them, and it was broadcast around the world. It wasn't what my initial vision was, but the lesson that I learned from it was completely invaluable. And it really did set me up for this last story I want to share with you. So, pure intention. I am 51 years old. I turned 51 January 4th of this year. January 4th of last year, going into my 50th year, I knew that my love is to empower and engage women, to do and be everything that we think we're big enough to do and be and create. And so I said, I want to really press in and lean into empowering women. And how do I want to do that? I wanted to do it in 3 ways. 1, I wanted to start an initiative called Not Your Mama's 50. Our tagline is not better, not worse, just different. We face different challenges than our mothers faced. We face some very similar challenges, but some things that are different. And I found that I was in a conversation with women in my same age category about what's next. What's next for us? What do we do when our kids go to college? What do we do when we have a career change, either something that we've sought or something that happened to us? What do we do when we get divorced unexpectedly or we have the death of a spouse? A lot of different things that happen in this phase of our life. And how can we set ourselves up to be successful in life 2.0? And so I really wanted to set up a space where women could bring our resources and support one another. Me supporting you, you supporting me. And we did that. The next way that I wanted to empower women was to do more speaking, to, as I say, motivate, engage, and elevate. Anything that I can do to bring to the conversation that would help you to achieve something that you might not otherwise achieve, or you might need a little something to get there, I would do twice on Sunday. Every day I'd do it. And the third thing that I purposed to do, and my intention, was to do more coaching of women so that we could share our stories and share our experiences with confidence, with clarity, and with compassion. And so things were going really, really well, but life got to lifing, and the world got to whirling. So on May 23rd, after we had come back from our honeymoon in South Africa, I found out that I had a suspect with mammogram and biopsy, and I was going to have a partial mastectomy. I also found out on that exact same day that my primary contract was going to be cut. That was like 70% of my income gone. Now, that is a blow. Both of those things. It's like I'm going to be laid up in bed and I'm not even going to even have the opportunity to pursue new contracts. And so I put together a little plan, went through the surgery, everything went well, and I was starting to come out of it. I then found out that I had to have a hysterectomy, which was an offshoot of the partial mastectomy. And so that was the time that I was really going to be pursuing additional contracts. And now I'm feeling a little bit panicked. So after the surgery, I'm healing. I stumble across something on a website. It is a plum position at the NFL. A position, a vice president's position that I have done and could do with my eyes closed. I have a friend who is the EVP of Human Resource at the NFL, and during the Super Bowl, I actually worked for Commissioner Goodell. All of the evidence is in place, right? Right? Wrong. I have this declared intention that I made to empower women, and there was no way I was going to be able to do those two and serve the NFL. So I chose to stay in that commitment. We're talking about leaping and the net will appear. Boy, that net couldn't appear fast enough. About 2 weeks later, I got a call from a friend, and he said, "Have you heard of the Me Too movement?" And I said, "Yeah, I've seen a couple little things, but, refresh me." And he said, "Look up this woman, Tarana Burke, and then let me know what you think." So I did. And I'm going through a couple of videos of hers, and I was like, oh my God, I love her. Love her. I love what she stands for. I love her vision. I love her gumption. Love, love, love. So I reached back out to him, and I told him exactly that. So he said, "Well, I want to put you guys together because I think I want to represent her, but I want some work to be done with her, and there's a couple things that she needs to do before I can do that." He is an agent for the Harry Walker Speaker Agency. And so he put us together. 3 hours on FaceTime later, it was a mutual admiration society. She was loving me, I was loving her, and towards the end of the conversation, she said, "Okay, so you got to tell me, what's your fee?" And I said, "You know what? I've worked for nonprofits before." She works for a nonprofit. And I said, "And I feel without knowing what your income is, I feel like you can't afford me." I said, "But I believe in what you're doing." I said, "So we're going to do this, and we'll figure it out along the way." And so we were working together, and things are going great, and things have been going great. In early January, I was at her house preparing her for the Golden Globes. You guys all saw the Golden Globes with the blackout? Yeah, so she was one of the activists on the red carpet. And we were preparing for that. And in a quiet moment, I asked her, I said, "Tarana, did you know that the Me Too movement would become all of this?" And she said, "Leslie, there's no way you could have told me over a decade ago that this thing that we created a vision and a mission statement around would become this." She said, "But what I can say is, the night after we created that mission statement, I went to sleep and I dreamt that Me Too was on the same level as far as lexicon in our society as Just Say No to Drugs, and Only You Can Prevent Forest Fires, and just Mothers Against Drug Driving. Those are the 3 examples." And she said, "And to see that happening is beyond humbling." She said, "And I never could have imagined myself pushing the button in Times Square to start the countdown for the new year, to being chosen one of Time Magazine's Persons of the Year." And she won't say this, but I'm saying this about the whispers about her being a Nobel Peace Prize winner. That, my friends, is the power of pure intention. So when you create from a place of pure intention, it is never just about you. It's about us. For Malala, her neutral intention to gain an education has transformed a nation. Girls are being educated, and she is considering running for political office to truly change her country. Madonna began with a self-serving intention of just being good at something, but she's created a space where people can express themselves in an artistic way that pushes boundaries. Harriet Tubman, her intention was to lead slaves to freedom, and she is responsible partially for generations and generations of free children, present company included. So, I offer to you that you can count on me to create from a place of pure intention. And I'm counting on you. And you're counting on her. And she's counting on him. And he's counting on her. And I say that because we are all counting on one another. We're all in this together. Intention is as important as what we intend to do as the place from which it comes. And my consideration to you is that you can count on me. Thank you.